Hey, Shane Kerwin for Personal Survival Solutions. I know it's been a while since we've done a video, so we want to get back after them. Sticking with the carbine here, and where I want to go with this is I want to talk about loading and unloading procedures and then the various ready positions that we teach throughout our system here at PSS. So the major cause of a Type 1 malfunction with a rifle is failure to seat the magazine. So if we do a proper loading sequence at the beginning and we load our magazines correctly, we can get rid of that major type of malfunction and not have to worry about it. So we need to download our magazines anywhere, 29, 28, 27. My guns, their personalities just happen to like 27 rounds. If I can't handle it within 27 rounds, then something's probably gone sideways, and all the rounds in the world ain't gonna help me with it. So when I go to do this loading sequence, okay, I'm gonna get it up into my workspace. I'm gonna access my magazine, and then I wanna check to see which side the round is on. I can use my index finger here. I can use the thumb on my master grip. It doesn't really matter. Here, it's on the right side. I'm going to insert and tug, and then we got to run the bolt forward. Mine happens to be locked to the rear. We can either come back and pull the charging handle to its full length of travel and let it go. In this instance, I'm just going to come up with the palm of my hand and my thumb, and I'm going to hit the bolt release, letting it go forward into battery, release the magazine, and now I'm going to feel which side the round is on. Now it's on the left side, so the only physical place that that round could go is in the chamber. Then I insert and tug, and then I'm ready to go. Okay, when I go to do my unloading sequence, it's just the opposite, and it's fairly simple. I'm going to hit the magazine release. I'm going to stow that magazine somewhere. In this case, in my magazine pouch, I'm going to lock the bolt to the rear. Now I've got to use both hands for that, and then I'm going to do a visual inspection. And if you want to do a tactile inspection too, that's fine, but I'm going to check the chamber, the bolt face, and then the magazine well to make sure there's nothing in there. And especially as these guns start getting dirty, you might want to stick a pinky finger in there to see, because the casing might be all covered in soot and that. So just make sure that it's clear. You can let the bolt go forward, close the dust cover if you so desire, and that's the unloading sequence. Then you can pick up the round that you dropped on the ground, keeping your head up and keeping awareness. So the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the different ready positions that we teach at PSS. Now, there's really kind of 4 of them. What you call them, I don't really care. It doesn't matter what the name of it is. I just refer to them as high ready, confrontation ready, under the arm ready, and then position or rifle stool or over the shoulder roll. Okay. So we're going to start off with high ready first. If I'm looking that way and I've got my target or threat or perceived threat that's there, I'm going to get the gun up underneath my arm in a position of strength. I'm going to get the gun up, but it's not obscuring my line of vision. I'm looking over the front sight and the muzzle. So I got a good field of vision that's out there, and I can assess the situation. When it comes time and I identify a threat, okay, we want to think of that there's a high table and a low ceiling, and I got to shoot that gap in between. It's a very linear presentation as we do this. So I identify the threat, I lock my eyes where I want to put my sighting system, and I want the bullet to go, and now I'm going to shoot the gap. I'm going to drive the gun forward, and because I've made that conscious decision to engage, as I'm driving the gun out, safety's going to come off. I'm going to start to roll my finger into the trigger. I'm going to give myself a little space so I miss my clothing, and if I have any kit on, as it comes back in and I roll my shoulder up, that red dot in this particular instance comes into my line of vision. I can assess to make sure the situation hasn't changed. If there's still a threat, then I can roll my finger on the trigger and I can shoot until I get a desired effect. Once I break cheek weld, and if I'm going to go back into this high ready, as I break that cheek weld, safety goes back on, my finger's already rolled outside the trigger, and I'm back in that position of strength of that high ready so I can assess the situation and see what I have to do. Confrontation ready, and I like to use this as confrontation ready as opposed to a depressed muzzle or low ready. Again, I don't really care what you call it, but most of the time when I'm using this, it's going to be used because I'm giving verbal commands. Maybe I've already shot and they've fallen down, or maybe when I introduced the gun and drove it out, that changed their behavioral pattern, and so now I'm giving verbal commands. If the gun is up in my shoulder, I've got this hinge point here. All I'm gonna do is drop the gun down so I can move my head. I have the ability to move my head and assess my situation, but I avert my muzzle down as far down as so I can see the hands and belt line, because the belt line is where the bad people keep bad things to do bad things to good people. Now, how far I have to avert that muzzle down is dependent on the proximity that I am to them. So as long as I can see that belt line, I'm able to assess the situation and see what's going on. Once I've identified their threat, that hinge point is important because it's already in the shoulder or towards my center line in the collarbone, and I'm just gonna pop the gun up on the vertical axis into my line of vision. Safety comes off, I'm gonna roll my finger into the trigger. I take that nanosecond to assess if the situation has changed. If not, then I can go ahead and get off my rounds. Again, when I break that cheek weld, safety goes back on. Now this under the arm ready position, you could call it what you want. Now the muzzle's going to be oriented towards where the threat is or the perceived threat, but we have to have a way to compress the gun in so it could kind of be under the arm compressed ready in a position of strength. Now muzzle's oriented, like I said, towards the threat or the perceived threat, but if I have to come up and I want to have my muzzle oriented so I can shoot if I need to, and I need to open the door, I can take this support hand, I can come up, I can open a door. I've got this compressed in, and if somebody tries to grab the gun, this is a position of strength. I can shoot them off the gun if the situation requires that, or I've got a defendable position. Okay. I like to teach this in class, especially in close proximity. I think it's a viable position. Like I said, with a situation where I need to open doors, I need to have the use of my support hand, and I want to have that muzzle oriented towards where I perceive possibly the threat is. I would go to one of these other ready positions if I don't want to be flagging or muzzling everybody. The last one is the over-the-shoulder roll. It was taught to me by a guy named Benny Cooley years ago. Sometimes I'll refer to it as rifle Sul, and Sul is just Portuguese for south. Okay? So if I've got the gun up in my shoulder, I'm going to rotate it in, and I'm going to bring the butt of the gun up over. So now the muzzle's averted down, it's out at an angle, so I'm not muzzling myself, and I can work in and around people and obstacles without fear of muzzling them and accidentally putting a shot off when I don't want it to. Now there's two ways when I go to drive the gun out. Again, we want to do this in a very linear approach. One way is just to roll the gun up depending on how much space I have. So I'm here. Once I identify the threat, I'm going to roll the gun up. I'm going to drive it out so I miss my clothing and any type of equipment that I have on. I've made that decision that I'm going to shoot. So I'm going to flip that safety off, roll my finger into the trigger as I bring the gun into the pocket of my shoulder, rolling that shoulder up, bringing the red dot into my line of vision, and then taking that nanosecond to assess my situation. Do I still need to shoot? If so, I'm ready to go. Trigger's already prepped. Once it's all said and done and I go to break cheek weld, finger comes outside of the trigger, I'm going to flip the safety back on, and I can roll the gun back into that rifle Sul or over the shoulder roll. Now if I got to compress the gun, because say I'm in a house and I'm in tight confines or I'm in a vehicle, okay, the other way that we can present the rifle is I can compress it in. So I'm going to lift the gun up when I go to present it out once I've identified that there's a threat. So I'm going to compress the gun, keeping my elbow down. Now I'm going to drive the muzzle in that very linear fashion, giving myself some space so I clear my clothes and any kit that I have. I've made the decision that I'm going to shoot, so safety comes off, finger rolls into the trigger as it comes back into my shoulder, and then I take that nanosecond to assess has anything changed. I can go ahead and shoot if I need to till I get a desired effect. Once I break cheek weld, finger outside the trigger well, safety rolls back on, and then I can go into any of these ready positions to conduct my threat scan. And we got a helper here. We got a little bit up. It went off. A little butterfly that was there trying to help us out today. So anyway, those are the ready positions that we teach. Next class that next video that we're going to do in this series is how do we implement these ready positions in close proximity to be able to get rounds off if the situation warrants it. So we're gonna do that. We'll probably do it with the Unit 4 airsoft gun, so we could do it out back here, and then we'll also do one live fire out at our home range at Montgomery County Shooting Complex. So until then, always vigilant, always prepared.